So close of play of the second day of the second test between India and England in Chennai sees India absolutely tightening their grip on this match. They've closed their second innings at 54 for 1. They lead, therefore, by 249. It's immense on this pitch. Gill was the man out, but Sharma's still there on 25. Pujara on 7. This morning, India lost their last 4 wickets for 29 in 6 overs, bowled out for 329. A couple of wickets there for Stone, actually, who bowled very well, I think, given the circumstances. 3 for 47 he finished with. England were then bowled out for 134. Burns got 0. Sibley 16. Lawrence 9. Joe Root fell sweeping for 6. Stokes 18. A totally unplayable delivery. A lovely partnership between Pope and Folkes, actually, came to an end after a lot of concentration. Pope very unluckily hit Siraj, just glanced it down the leg side, a loosener from the quick bowler. His first ball. Punt took a brilliant catch. Pope was out for 22, Moeen for 6, Ollie Stone for 1, Jack Leach 5. An ugly Mo from Stuart Broad finished it off. He was bowled for 0, leaving Ben Folkes on 42, not out, and played very well too. Ashwin taking 5 for 43, and then India again. Gill was elbowed over to Leach for 14. 54 for 1, therefore, is the close of play score. Lots of talk about the pitch, a lot of talk about the third umpire, who's, I must say, given all the technology that he's got available, is not simply making decisions wrong, but he isn't actually even allowing the decisions to be ruled upon. He's not actually running the replays through, as we've seen now. So there's a lot of stuff going on. We've seen Joe Root getting a little bit heated with the umpires out in the middle, who I think are doing a reasonable job, to be honest. But he's got no one else to have a bit of a go at, but it does demonstrate, Michael Vaughan, there is some frustration starting to build, I think.
Yeah, and this is where Joe Root's got to be careful. I'm sure the likes of Chris Silverwood and Graham Thorpe, lots of experience there, particularly from Graham Thorpe, of playing and being in this kind of situation where you feel that everything's going against you. I think Joe's got to understand that over the 2 days, his team have got the wrong end of the decisions and the wrong end of the conditions, but India have played better. They've played better this week. They've played a brand of cricket that's very intimidating. In Ravi Ashwin, they've got the best spinner by a good distance over the two teams. Axar Patel, you've got Kuldeep Yadav, you've got Siraj, you've got Ishant Sharma. So it's a good pace attack for this kind of wicket. And in Rohit Sharma, a world-class performer that's delivered an individual score that's put India on top in the game. And I think this is where, as an England captain, you've just got to go back to the hotel, sit down and go, OK, we've just got to try and fight for however long this game lasts. Just keep fighting. You never know. Someone could do something remarkable. It looks like England will obviously lose the game, but, try and take something over the course of the next day and a half into that third test match. But don't get too demoralised because... you've mentioned that this pitch is a stinker for Test match cricket over 5 days. It's not a pitch that's been prepared to last that long. I don't mind the ball spinning. I actually really enjoy watching it, and I've enjoyed watching today. It's entertaining, but when you're seeing that amount of dust and that amount of it is like batting on the beach, and it's grown and grown and grown over the course of 2.
Properly. That's as simple as that, isn't it?
I mean, and there's people out there saying, it's the same for both sides. It's turned from ball 1. Yes, it did, but it's not turned from ball 1 like it's turning now. So winning the toss is a massive advantage, and as it was in the first game. But I thought in the first Test match, if India had batted properly in the first innings, they'd have drawn that game. It was because they batted badly in that first innings. Whereas this pitch, as you said, this isn't prepared properly for a 5-day Test match wicket. It's a real poor cricket wicket, and India have maximised what they have in front of them and played some good cricket, particularly with the bat in hand. To get that amount of runs on that kind of surface was a good effort. And in Ravi Ashwin, we saw him get 6 for in the first test. He's got another 5 for now. I'm pretty sure he might get another couple of 5s before the end of the series.
And just going back to Root again for a moment, I mean, I reckon there's been 3 incidents now where the third umpire hasn't really done his job. And you're right, you've got to get that out of your mind, haven't you? Because you can get consumed on these tours. And we talked about it actually when they moved from Sri Lanka to India. If we're honest, I don't think expecting them to win the first test as they did, and sort of the danger of getting a bit of siege mentality in the bubble and everything else. You can quickly get into this frame of mind that everything and the whole world is against you, and somehow they've got to get that out of their minds.
Yeah, and I think that's what India like. They like to get the opposing captain into that kind of mindset because there's a negativity. There's that seed of doubt that you've thrown into the opposing captain's mind that things are going against you. So Joe's got to get back to that hotel tonight, as I said, speak to some of the senior coaching members, understand it is what it is. India have played better over the 2 days. There's no point in coming out criticising the pitch. That'll sound like sour. We can do that. We can talk on behalf of everyone. I mean, we're cricket fans at the end of the day, and we can see when things are not right. And let's be honest, over the years, England have prepared some wickets that we've looked at and gone, "Oh, I'm not so sure about that." There's been some
we've been equally critical of it. And you want the varying conditions around the world because that's what's so wonderful about Test cricket. You can have your bland one-day pitches that's the same in Auckland as they are in Sydney, and the same in Barbados. You can have all that with a white ball, but Test cricket is different, and you do get a flavour of wherever you are in the world. However, you've got to have a reasonable contest, and the ball should spin in India, of course, and in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, but not exploding through the surface of a pitch like this and making batting a lottery. That's not what Test cricket is.
Yeah, I mean, it's that fine balance, isn't it? That I thought in the first Test match the pitch was too flat for too long, and then it exploded almost too quickly. It didn't kind of just deteriorate over a longer period of time, whereas this one it is done too much too soon. And yeah, it is a fine balance. You expect it to spin, you expect footholds to arrive on days 2, 3. And in Ravi Ashwin, you know that whatever the conditions are, it's going to be difficult because he's such a wonderful spin bowler. But when you see that it's clear that they've not prepared an end, and it's both ends that are doing it, but particularly one end.
Yeah.
And I would suggest it's probably the end that they knew that Ravi Ashwin was going to be bowling from. They thought, there's a nice patch for Ravi, just give it a scrub. Which is home conditions. You are allowed to do that. It's your home advantage. But, I do like to see pitches prepared that potentially at least look like they're going to last 4 days or so.
And in the ICC's interest, this is the year of the World Test Championship, and I've been through the regulations. It must be in the ICC's interest to make sure that actually, if any deliberate preparation of pitches, and not saying this one is, there should be sanctioned, there should be points deducted, because you don't want situations where teams trying to get in the final are just producing absolute minefields to get there. That's not in the ICC's interest. This is their flagship competition, this Test Cricket's World Championship, and they should put into place some sort of mechanism that makes sure that can't happen.
Well, and all that's going to, and also I guess look at the teams that are travelling around the world. They're not getting the 3 or 4 day games leading into a series, so it makes it almost doubly bad. What will happen, and we know it's going to happen, England will play 5 Test matches against India in the summer in England, and it's just going to hoop around all over the place. And I won't be in favour of that either, because I want fair balance.
That Lord's one, where we thought, what is going on here? In fact, England lost it, but they got their fingers burned. But you shouldn't. It just needs to be a fair balance, and sometimes groundsmen get it wrong, and they make a genuine mistake, and that's fair enough. We all make mistakes. But anyway, let's see how the rest of the series pans out as far as these pitches are concerned. I love the way Pope and Folkes both went about it this afternoon, though. Both showing that they're busy. There is a way. You've trying to adapt your own technique. Folkes we know can bat in these conditions, but that was encouraging anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at different scenarios going forward. I mean, Ben Folkes is. I know he's only played a few games, but he looks to me like the best wicketkeeper in the world. He just looks like he makes wicketkeeping look so easy. Just melts into his gloves, and with the batting hand today, he just, he plays spin well. We know that from his time playing in Sri Lanka a few years ago when he got that terrific 100. So we know he's a good player of spin. I just wonder down the track, with all these would Buttler potentially play as a batsman and Folkes with a wicketkeeper batsman. Dan Lawrence has struggled at 3. Will it be Zach Crawley that comes in for 3? Will Johnny Bairstow come into the next Test match at number 3, or will they think Ollie Pope at number 3? I mean, there's so many options that England find, but when you see a keeper like Ben Folkes and someone that batted so well, you think, he's such a good player.
Yeah.
You almost want 12, don't you? And you want Folkes to kind of go out there and keep when the spinners are on. I mean, Butler's keeping's been very, very good as well in the last year, so it is tricky. But when you see a player play so well over the course of 2 days back into the Test match in tough conditions, you think, I might see a bit more of that.
And it's the last one. You sometimes get this, and we've all been there, for bowlers out there listening now who have just searched and searched and searched for a wicket. and you can't get it, and you get more and more frustrated. I would urge you to watch the dismissal of Ishant Sharma to Moeen, which just makes you could only do it with a smile on your face. It was a horrible low-full toss of a pie that he managed somehow to toe end to mid-wicket for a duck. It was so funny, wasn't it? And the amount of cricket we've all played and watched, it just shows every now and then, even at the highest level, you get something like that.
Well, I recognise that there's a little DVD that the England off spinners could produce over the course of the last 3 tests. If you think back to some of the dismissals Dominic Best got in Sri Lanka, in that first innings when he got a 5 for in Gaul, and now Moeen Ali's picked up. If you look at Dominic Best getting Pujara caught off the back of short leg in the first test here, Moeen Ali with Ishant Sharma this summer. The England off spinner
catch from root at
extra cover, flying one-handed. The England off spinners, they've got a bit of fortune going their way at the minute. Long may that continue.
Thank you, Michael. We'll catch up with you tomorrow.
Cheers, everyone.
And Michael Vaughan, of course, giving his thoughts on proceedings. We'll be dialing up Pune in a second to get hold of Prakash Wakankar to get an Indian view of things, which would be interesting to hear. First of all, a little closer to home, we're going down to the stats shed in Streatham, where we're going to find Andy Zaltzman poring over all sorts of facts and figures. I'm not sure what necessarily. What's caught your eagle eye today, Andy?
Well, where else to start, Aggers, but with an all-time Test match record set today in India's score of 329. Not a single extra, the highest team score in the history of Test cricket. Around about 2,400 games, the highest score ever made without a single run from extras.
Not a bye, not a leg bye, not a nothing.
Nothing. So good discipline from the bowlers. No balls. We've seen quite a lot of them in the first test, and folks has let a couple of byes through in the second innings, but were basically flawless in the first innings. Also got a stumping and a couple of catches this morning. Was the 5th longest innings ever played without an extra, and the longest since 1962. Slightly less good for England. Obviously, they're batting. Rory Burns has now been out 3 times in the last 5 balls he's faced in this series. Got a second innings duck in the first test and a duck here. And since the start of the Pakistan series in the summer, he's had scores of 4-10, 0-6, 33, 0 and 0. So that's a concern for England. We talk about Zach Crawley coming back. I guess it could be that, and potentially Bairstow, they could possibly both come into the top 3 for the next test. Burns' last 8 tests in all, averaging just under 24. Joe Root was out sweeping a left-arm spinner for the first time in 4 years. Since then, he scored 216 runs with the sweep against left-arm spin without being dismissed. So a very rare failure for him. Out for 6, his lowest first innings score of the winter so far, by a factor of 180 runs. So that was a major wicket, Axar Patel's first test wicket. Ollie Stone picked up 3 wickets. Here's a curious one, Aggers. He's only the second England bowler to take 3 or more wickets in his first 2 test innings in the last 23 years. And the other was Toby Rowland-Jones, who had 5 and 3 on debut against South Africa. And you've got to go back to Dean Headley before that for an England test bowler with 3 or more in both innings. Stone had 3 on debut against Ireland and bowled very well for 3 wickets. Here, Moeen Ali, 4 wickets, 52 in his last 11 tests. Only Graham Swan and Derek Underwood have had faster 50-wicket sequences amongst England spinners in the last 60 years. Ominously for England, only once ever has a team chased a target of more than 280 to win in India, and the Indian lead already up around 250. And I'll give you a quick update from the Bangladesh-West Indies test that we've been following. It's been a captivating series. West Indies had a brilliant win in the first test, and they've just won the second test for a 2-0 series victory by the narrow margin of 17 runs. The final wickets, Jamel Warrican had Mehdi Hassan caught out for 31 by Rakeem Cornwall, who took 4 wickets and 3 catches in the fourth innings. So a fine series victory for West Indies in two dramatic games.
Yeah, a number of senior players pulled out too. I was thinking of of the West Indies and how they'll look at that. And of course, last summer they brought a lot of their second team over, didn't they? Their A team and so on to just get used to being in the bubble and Test cricket life and so on. And actually, I think we said at the time this will do a lot of these young players a bit of good. And with so many senior players opting out of Bangladesh, that seems to be the case.
Yeah, so Jason Holder being one of them, their captain, he's been such a superb player for them over the last few years, and a great leader for them. Amongst the players who've come in, and Kruma Bonner, who helped Kyle Mayers, as Mayers made that incredible double hundred in the fourth innings of the first test. Bonner made 80 odd in that game, 90, and a valuable 38 in a low second innings here. Joshua Da Silva, who we saw coming on as a sub-keeper against England in the summer. I remember him sprinting back to his hotel room to get his keeping pads when Shane Dowrich got injured. He's had a good series with the bat. A couple of good scores, made 92 in this second test. Alzari Joseph scored 80 down the order, wickets for Cornwall, who also was on that tour, played the one test without success in England. So it's a superb win for West Indies. Bangladesh have been much tougher to beat at home in the last few years. It's the first time they've been whitewashed in a series at home since West Indies did so in 2012. So it's been a fascinating two-match series to follow, albeit I've only been following it by looking at the scores ticking over on the internet. That's the wonders of Test cricket.
Indeed. Andy, thank you so much. Lots of interesting stats in there, as always, of course. It's not all what Test cricket's about, but it certainly makes a big part of it, and it's great when you sort of get putting some flesh on the bones, as it were. Let's head off to India then, and to get the views of Prakash Wakankar after a bit of a lively day. Prakash, lots going on sort of on and off the field. There's lots of talk about the pitch, lots of talk about the third umpire and so on. How are you feeling the heat there in Pune?
Well, certainly, yes, we are. And I'm actually, to be hand on heart, I guess, I'm a little disappointed, particularly with the last 20 minutes or so of play, because, the third umpire, I think, in this case, I want to understand from you as much as anyone else, that LBW appeal of Moeen against Rohit Sharma, was it the field umpire judging that he was attempting to play a stroke, which is why they didn't do the ball tracking? Because otherwise, that looked out when we saw the review later on, didn't we?
Absolutely. Well, it's the third umpire to sort of assess these decisions from the word go, isn't it? I mean, I think what England supporters are saying is that there's now been possibly three, definitely two, but possibly three mistakes made by the third umpire, but it shouldn't happen. He's got all the equipment.
No, absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. I think Rohit Sharma is making it a habit of giving these tantalizing situations with stumpings, so we can agree to say that, okay, maybe there's some doubt there. But why would you not review an appeal for leg before when clearly, in my mind, the bat was hidden behind the pad and a stroke was not attempted? I mean, that's completely idiotic. It just takes the sheen off, I think, not necessarily from the Indian cricket team, because the umpires have nothing to do in that sense with the team. A terrific bowling effort, really one solid batting performance, wasn't it, by Ben Stokes? How well he batted and applied himself, and maybe the rest of the England batsmen could have taken a leaf or two out of that. And Ravi Ashwin once again just coming out and bowling beautifully. But this just leaves a sour taste at the end of the day, which is so unnecessary in an otherwise fantastic day of Test match cricket.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you, because in the conversations about the pitch and the lack of preparation and so on, what Indian followers, I don't think, want is any sort of added controversy about the third umpire. It sort of weakens any argument that you might have about the pitch. And I don't know what you think about the pitch, but I suspect you would put up a stronger defence of the pitch than England supporters would do.
Well, I suspect I would, and you know me well enough now, Agus, to know that I'm not. I would like to believe that I'm not overtly partisan. The fact of the matter is, we had 330 runs scored. We had someone score 160, 2 or 3 50s, and I think Ben Stokes' knock was well worth more than what he had. If he had a chance, I think he would have got a few more for sure. So I think it's a pitch on which, if you battle and play with the right kind of technique, and you have your share of luck, which is obviously very, very essential, you can put up resistance. It's not that this is a bad pitch. Everyone's been following the Shane Warne, Michael Vaughan discussion on Twitter with two different points of view. But, at the end of the day, if a side gets bowled out for 100 on a green top, somebody will argue that was very alien conditions for a visiting team. I think it's the same here. Could it have been a little bit better? Maybe it could have. Should it have? Probably should have. Would it have changed the result if India had won the toss? I doubt very much. I think we would have been in a similar position, but would have given the opposition or the visiting team probably a greater chance of a fight back than appears possible now.
Well, I do agree with you, and I was going to say, we're on a slightly scratchy phone line, Prakash. I was going to say that, I mean, the doubts that we had about India turning up for the first match, there's no doubt they've come roaring in for this second one.
Yeah, they certainly have, and I think you can see it in the body language. You know, I can't remember when the last time Virat Kohli hugged Ravichandran Ashwin the way he did after he took that catch. I think it was for the second English wicket that fell. There's clearly a lot more bonhomie. Nothing brings people together as a crisis, does it, in life or in cricket? And I think the Indian team just rallied together and have come out in all guns blazing. And I think England a little bit have been just blown away, I'd like to say, in spite of that very, very good batting effort from Ben Stokes. I really think he batted superbly.
Many thanks, Prakash. Well, the challenge for England today has been how you bat on a minefield. There aren't many Englishmen who have got a better record in this sort of thing than Sir Alistair Cook.
The first thing I have to say, I don't think I've played on a pitch quite as inconsistent with the bounce as this. I've played on pitch which would have turned as much as this. That Mumbai pitch would have turned, unless my memory's like slightly, as always, slightly tinted from looking back, thinking it was a lot harder than it actually was. But I'm pretty sure it spun big, but it didn't have the inconsistent bounce. The challenge on this wicket is the fact that if it hits the patch, it's almost it's a lottery of what it does out of that patch. So the mindset, if I was then batting in that first innings, I would have to go, right, what are my attacking options to batsman, each bowler? What was my one shot I could play to try, if the ball was in that area, to push a little bit of pressure back on the bowler? So the left arm was bowling, even though he's a tall left armer, and bowling to rough, I'd be batting slightly on off stump and looking to sweep. Straight away, looking for that sweep, get my pad outside the line, and that'll be my shot to get some pressure back on him. And hopefully then by sweeping him, he might start missing his length, or give me a cut or give me a clip on the leg side. I'd imagine they'll bowl straight with the leg slip like Jadeja did to me, which I find quite hard, because it's quite a natural thing just to try and tip it off the hip and you forget the man's there. So that would be a tactic they will use. Ashwin, very, very hard for a left-hander to play. Clearly a cut shot for me, trying to play him off, trying to pick the length, try and play him off the back foot and not get dragged into defending too many balls around there. But that's very easier said than done. And if he does slide a little bit leg side, have a sweep. I wouldn't run at him, I don't think, on this pitch with the rough there. You know, if it does grip that, it's coming out everywhere. But what we did see, and we saw a little bit in actually the Sri Lanka games a couple of years ago, where in England's mind on that first morning, can you remember that game in 2018 where they just played really positively, scored at like 5 and over, yes, but lost a few wickets, and then Ben Stokes came in and actually just played nice and steady, didn't he? Actually wasn't as bad a wicket as they'd thought. It did turn, but it wasn't like a minefield. And in the back of my mind, knowing that if I could get through the first 30, 40 balls, I keep going on about subcontinent batting, but you would find the rhythm of the pitch, and you'd be able to work out what's happening out that rough a bit more, and which balls were going to hit the rough. Do you understand? You find a way, and it is then possible to play. You will need a little bit of luck early on, because you will play a miss. You'll have that lunge forward, and Ashwin spins one past your outside edge. You just hope you just don't nick it, and you can get on with it. But that's the only way I'll be saying get in, try, do anything you can to survive. If the ball's out the rough, let it hit your body from the left armour, kick away a few, just try and get it into that ball slightly older, and then try and knock it around. That's the only way I'd play with that one area where I'm thinking, right, if he's in that shot, I'm sweeping hard to try and get that boundary, try and put a little bit of pressure back on him.
The sweep's interesting, because we saw the case today with Joe Root sweeping. It was a left arm spinner, rather than you were talking about sweeping the left arm spinner to you being left-handed
coming into you.
Are you trying to hit it hard with the sweep? I'm thinking in terms of, because you're sweeping out of your rough, so again you're talking about the bounce. You don't quite much is going to bounce. Are you looking just to kind of work it round the corner so that if it does get a toppish edge, it's unlikely to go to somebody, or are you looking to actually hit it hard with the slight danger, I'm guessing, if it does get a top edge, actually it could carry to a fielder out there?
I think, do you know what, early on in your innings, I think you're looking to hit it hard, for the reason of trying to put a bit of pressure back on the bowler. You know, trying to hit. If you're playing that shot, you are trying to hit it for 4. You're trying to see where the man is on that, how square he is or how fine he is, and try and beat him either way. So if he is behind square, I would cock my wrist a little bit and say, right, I'm going to try and hit this. You know, I cock it to try and cock the wrist, then that ball goes slightly straighter, so it goes in front of square. But I think it's a risky shot, so you might as well be trying to get as maximum reward for it. I'll try and keep it down than I would go slog sweep, unless they obviously didn't have a cow corner. But this day and age, is the left arm very, very rarely bowls without a cow corner, because as the modern way is, that the slog sweep is an acceptable shot to now play in Test cricket, and players play it a lot better. So I'll imagine that guy will be there.
What about the mindset? People say you get a ball that explodes. My word, we've seen a lot of those today. It's going poof and dust everywhere, and the ball bounces and climbs. How do you put that out of your mind? They all say, put that away and just face the next ball. But I mean, is it really possible to do that? And do you do that, or do you try and bear in mind actually that last ball round there blew up from there? So if it's there again, I might have to put a bit of extra leg in the way or body in the way or something,
or move your hands first. If you are leaving and kicking it, make sure you know how many times do you see someone try and leave the ball and have the hands near the front pad, because the usual way wouldn't bounce that much. So just on a little technical thing, make sure your hands are well away from it if it does hit the extra if it does bounce a bit more. Because you have to accept it's going to be there, and you just have to go, well, you can't do anything other than put it to the back of your mind and just say, well, it is turning. But what you can do, you can moan about it. Moaning about it isn't going to do any good. It's not going to do any good, is it? Like, you moan about it, well, it's ragging square, I can't play it possibly. Well, you might as well just kick your stumps down and walk down and sit down, have a cup of tea and say, well, it's not flat, I ain't going to score any runs in it. And
do you enjoy it? I mean, do you actually enjoy the challenge of batting on something that is just massively stacked against you?
I do when you get in, yeah. I didn't like the first 20, 30 balls where you just, you're possibly on 2 of 30 balls, and you're like, this is so hard work for you're grinding away for no reward whatsoever. Certainly the pressure of a situation. The Indian pressure now, there's no pressure on their batsman there. Pujara's come in, he's batting. I mean, he didn't feel because he got a slightly sore hand, but he seems perfectly fine to bat. But all my money I had on the Pujara was going to bat at 3 there today. He ain't going to miss out on scoring a few runs. There's no pressure on there, is it? Everyone say, well, why don't we just bat like India in the second innings, run down? But Gill ran down to get off the mark, chipped it over point, leading edge. The next one he chipped over middle on a pair. Yes. But if an England guy did that, when setting, in that first over, like Dom Sibley ran down in the second over of this innings and got caught mid-on, everyone would be criticising the shot. So this situation is not actually a fair reflection of how to play spin, because it's a free shot for India. It's the pressure's off, and it's amazing when the pressure's off in Test cricket, you get away with a lot more.
Yeah. Just another thought as well with DRS. I mean, whereas back in the day, you could actually cunningly, obviously, hide your bat, and you could kick a few away. You could get yourself in and so on. I mean, you can't do that now, can you?
There is an element of risk in that shot. And I'm not saying it's saying you definitely sweep. It's it's the way to score runs. It is a risky shot to play, but it's in my opinion, it's the only shot you can really play. I was surprised, and I was just thinking again, I would probably out of nowhere just run at the left armour, just to kick him away, maybe. Right. So he thinks you might do something, or you might, if they didn't have a mid wicket, try and run down and have a bit of a hack at it, so he doesn't. All he has to do is run and land it there. So as soon as the pressure goes back, you don't have to be reckless. You don't have to actually run. Just because you leave the crease doesn't mean you have to play the big shot. You can run down, think, if it's in my area, I'm going to have a go. I might even just cloth it over mid wicket for 2, but at least he thinks I'm doing something. And the harder the pitches, the more proactive you have to be as a batsman. But you have to do it in your area. There's no point in running down and trying to hit him through extra cover, because that's 9 impossible.
Just looking through mine, if I went through all my notes, Alistair, from your debut onwards, I don't think Cook caught brackets having a hack, close brackets, however many. I don't think it ever happened, did it? Having a hack?
No, I probably wasn't, but I bet I did come down. I did come down and try on a turning, and try and have a hack, and probably didn't get anything on it. But it's just to show a little bit of only the ball coming in. I wasn't as good when the ball was turning away. I found that a lot harder to score,
because you have to get some sort of initiative, don't you? You can't just allow a bowler to bowl ball after ball after ball.
But you can't be reckless
because there's going to be one with your name on it on these pitches.
Yeah, there are, but your technique can survive, and that's why the work you do in the nets of surviving, with your defence around it, there is some method in the madness. You do rough up the nets. You do get people to throw the other way. In the nets where everyone bowls at one end and you always bat at the other end, you get the bowling coach or the batting coach, to throw. You swap the nets round, so you're then batting, where all the rough is, and you put the stumps a bit further back, so the rough for the bowlers is even more, just so you overtrain, so you can prepare for it a little bit. It's a bit different, but it's certainly something we did as a side. You got people just to throw into the really, really thing. It was, it's a bit of a joke. Some hit you on your head, some hit you everywhere, but at least you can kind of formulate a bit of an idea and a technique.
You're listening to the TMS podcast from BBC Radio 5 Live.
So what's today been like in the England camp? Simon Mann has been speaking to the England assistant coach, Graham Thorpe.
Graham, you played 100 test matches. Were those the toughest second day spin conditions that you've seen, in your playing career and in your coaching career?
Yep. It's incredibly challenging on that surface for us on day two. They're obviously a very skilled spin attack as well on their own conditions, and it was a very good toss to win.
How should you try to bat on a pitch like that, or is it a lottery?
Well, there are some balls in the pitch which you might not be able to do too much about, but we've talked about trying to have a plan, being clear in the areas that you can attack and how you can rotate strike and how you can defend. So the guys have plans, but they didn't happen today for us. There were some good deliveries in there, some unfortunate dismissals as well, some good catches from India as well today. So we didn't get the partnerships going. I thought Ben Foakes played very well. The ball got a little bit softer. It wasn't quite so much of the devil in the delivery, but we'd lost early wickets in the piece, and that really set us back today.
Is it a pitch that's fit or acceptable for the second day of a test match? Is it a pitch fit for test cricket?
It's a very challenging surface. That's what I'm going to say. I think in terms of me commenting on the pitch, I think that's for someone above me to look at. But it's obviously taken a turn early in the game, and as I said, it was a very good toss to win to bat on day one.
How do you see the game from here? I mean, 250 lead, 3 days left. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, it is. Well, we need. You'd say we need something very, very special to happen tomorrow for us, and somebody to do something amazing with the bat. So I think we knew we were going to have some tough days, and I think the most important thing is that our dressing room doesn't get too affected by today. We've got some players in our team which are touring this part of the world for the first time against a very, very strong Indian side. So just as last week when we won the first test match, here we know that we have to stand up, keep learning as well. I think that's the most important thing, that some of our players keep learning and developing in this part of the world. We knew we were going to have some challenging days here.